Hey everybody, welcome back to the Personal Transformation Podcast. My name is Dan Story, and I'm joined today by Arnold Beekes. Now, Arnold's got an interesting perspective on what I call the trap of average, which is where we're stuck and we're living a life where we're not happy enough to say, this is amazing, but we're also not kind of annoyed enough to necessarily want to rock the boat. And Arnold talks about living someone else's life. So today we're going to spend some time with Arnold and try and understand, why do we get into the situation where we feel like we're living someone else's life? And then ultimately, what can we do about it to figure out what is our own life? And I guess, hopefully, ultimately start living along those lines. So Arnold, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Jen. It's really the situation you described would already be better if it was like that people start to realize that they live someone else's life. The problem is most people don't. I was also in that situation. We are, from the moment we're born, we're conditioned to live someone else's life. When was then a good baby? When you do exactly what your parents tell you to do. Yeah. Then maybe you go to kindergarten or to, let's say, primary school. When is then a good student? When you do what your teacher tells you to do. Then, you go to high school, same story. When are you a good teacher? When you get good grades and you do what the teacher tells you to do and you don't create any problems. Then you, maybe in the meantime, you go to church or something like that, or a spiritual thing, same thing, follow what the minister or the vicar or the imam or whatever tells you to do. Then you maybe you go to university or some kind of vocational training, doesn't matter what. Same story. You are good enough when you do exactly what these other people want you to do. Mm-hmm. And then comes the big chunk where it is, for most people, it's work. When are you a good employee? When you do what your boss tells you to do. So by the time we are 25, actually, I was much older when I realized that, is that the only thing what you've been doing is constantly meeting the expectations of other people. You're meeting the expectations of your parent. You're meeting the expectations of your teacher. You're meeting the expectations of your boss. Yeah. So, and then you are good. Yeah. And that means that is what I call living someone else's life. Because you're constantly adjusting and adapting to what these other people want from you.
Now, I hear now there's certain alarm bells going off. And I like this because the reason I do this podcast is, and I don't know about you, but I'm still trying to figure stuff out. And I'm trying to figure stuff out for myself, but also now as a dad, I'm trying to figure out some of the mistakes I don't want to make because I know I'm bringing a small person into this world. She's now 4.5, almost 28. So I don't want to make those mistakes. So as you talked about parents and I resonated with that. It's like, oh, she's a good girl when I say she's a good girl, and I'm trying not to do that. We want to create her own identity. But at the same time, rules are there for a reason. Like, I need her to get ready this morning for school. I need her to queue up according to the rules of the school. So I think, it's an interesting challenge because I can see what you're saying is we conform, we fit in with society, we fit in with those expectations. So there's definitely, and we get rewarded for that, right? We get rewarded with not being told off or good behavior reports or something along those lines. And at the same time, there's probably that inner voice. And I know what hers is because it's not inner, it's external. It's like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that. So how do we do that? How do we do that as individuals? And also, if you've got any advice to budding parents, because I know a few people who listen to this are on the parenting side, how do we balance that? How do we balance that conformity with individuality?
By realizing that it is a balance. Yeah. And there are things good about it and there's things not good about it. In one of my books I wrote, like, I'm not a rebel in the sense that I don't like any rules or regulations or whatever it is. Like, I prefer that people stop in front of the red traffic light. Yeah? And when I'm in the supermarket and I'm standing for the cashier desk, I want people that they get behind me and not try to get in front of me. Yeah, so right. So yes, there are rules to keep society moving and working and understanding. So that is something which you clearly need to teach people and why that is. I think the why question is a very important one.
Mm.
Why are we doing it like this?
That's one of the questions that my girl is very good at asking.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about the balance. Yeah, so one is it. Yes, you got to do it, but then it's not just you got to do it because I say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, explain why. Yeah.
That's tough to hear as a parent because the why question comes out a lot. But as a dad, I think I've got decent answers. I've got decent responses. Now, whether she listens to them or not, she's at that point. But let's put parenting aside because I think raising a 4-year-old is fun enough. So we'll figure that out. But definitely having a better answer than just because. Interesting. If you've done any of Cialdini's work or read any of that, it's just using the word because actually switches something in people's brains. They just become very conformist because we've heard it so much time growing up. Anyway, moving aside, how do we start to ask that question a lot more? So you're talking like you got 26, or people get to 28, or they kind of get into their middle age and they start to realize that, hold on, wait, this isn't my life. How did I get here? At what point should we be asking why? And what are some of those triggers for us to start realizing that we need to question the society and the status quo around us?
I would encourage everyone to question everything. What you're doing in your life, what's happening in society, what you do for your health, what you do in your relationships, whatever, because actually a lot of it, which we think is true, is really not true.
Give me an example.
And there are a lot of things which might work for Dan, but might not work for Arnold. So the main thing what we have to understand is that we are all unique. Dan is totally unique, not only in your DNA, but in your experiences, your skills, your knowledge, your everything is totally unique. There's nobody like Dan in the whole wide world.
Luckily for the rest of us.
Well, that creates a challenge in itself because a lot of things in our society are focused on make you the same as everybody else. Yeah. We want you to behave in the same way, do the same things, do the same stuff. But, well, let me give an example of a diet. Is like you could eat a certain diet and I could eat exactly the same diet and you can gain weight and I can lose weight, or the other way around.
That's very true. Like my wife, when we first got together, she's Czech. And there's one thing I know about Czech food is it's heavy. It's like it's meat plus potato and dumplings plus a whole bunch of added fats. Like she loves cooking butter. I remember making roast chicken, and that was like one chicken, one butter. I'm like, what's the butter for? She's like, I don't know, just goes in there, all of it. And she can look at that meal, she can eat it, she could do everything, and no change. And like I just take one, and I'm like, I've got to go to the gym for 3 days. Sorry. And again, because like you say, it's one for one person and one for others. So I definitely agree with the individuality of each element.
Yeah, but look at go to any kind of bookshop and books about diets. They are, how long are there books of diets? 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And they're all names and stuff and whatever, and people are still selling. So you would expect that by now it is understood that what should I be doing to lose weight or not. Yeah? But it is not, because we assume that I'm exactly my inner workings of my body is exactly the same as yours, and it happened to be working by them. So the then diet, you say, should be working with everybody.
Yeah.
That is because we talk about the wrong assumption that we're all the same.
Yeah, we're definitely not all the same. We're all individuals. Yeah. And yet, so I live in New York now, just moved, and there's something like 8 million people squeezed into this kind of city. It just goes up instead of out because there's enough space. There's you have zones, right? You have elements. There's the financial district, there's a creative district. I'm starting to kind of figure this out and do a little bit of geography. But if you go to the financial district, everyone looks the same. And there's a way of fitting in, and there's a way to be successful. And this is the word, right? Is success. Is this idea that if I want to be successful, I've got to conform, I've got to fit in, I've got to do what other people do. And and meet the standards and the expectations of others. So what is this thing? Is it do we have to question what success is? Do we have to have different expectations for ourselves? How do we start to realize that we're starting to live someone else's life?
Yeah, step one on my training program is what I call reveal. And to reveal to people what I just shared with you is that up until you're 25 and most likely the rest of your life, that you are fitting in. I call it, we have a brain operating system, BOSS.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the brain operating system in which we are immediately put is fitting in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And fitting in means constantly meeting the expectations of other people and be the same and do what people expect of you. The moment I tell them this story, what I just used you as an example, people are like, holy moly.
Yep.
So this awareness already creates a huge shift. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're totally there. The next boss is, I call, flying out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so from fitting in to flying out, it doesn't mean that everything is already falls in place. But then you start to realize is like, oh yeah, I'm really good at fitting in and doing what these other people expect of me. That happened to me actually, and I'm coaching people for nearly 50 years. So I tried it on my clients, and it's the same response. Let me tell you the story. I was with my first personal coach. This was in the beginning of 2000. Yeah, so personal coaches and things were not very commonplace. Yeah? Well, it was rather very exceptional. Yeah, so I was talking with this man, and I came from a corporate world and everything. And then I was like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this anymore. I don't want this. Yeah, Arnold, yeah, I don't want it. I don't like this. And I want to be like this. Yeah, so I talked about all my shitty experiences, which I didn't want anymore. And then he said, Arnold, I understand what you don't want. Can you please tell me what you do want? What? I had no clue. The
This
only
is tricky. This is difficult.
The only thing what I could I want to be a general manager because I hate being bossed around, so I want to be the top dog. Yeah, so that was kind of my answer. But for the rest, I knew nothing. And well, you know, by now it's not difficult for me to communicate. So it's like I couldn't find words. I couldn't. Yeah, so. And that happens with so many people. I tried this on whatever. Is everybody, we have such a list of what we don't want.
Yeah.
And if we ask, what do we want?
So let's spend some time here, because this I've heard this so many times. Yeah, I've been guilty of it a million times. I'm certain. I don't want this. I don't like this. It's like, well, what do you want? Let's turn it around. But it's difficult, right? It's difficult to answer this question, because when we think about it from the conditioned frame. We can think about it from our experiences, our expectations. Like you said, you know, I'm an assistant general manager. I want to be general manager. That's such a tiny little thinking box. And, you know, we've got the status quo around us saying, be realistic, think about it as logical steps, and you can't do two things. We've got sunken cost bias. So we've done all these things before. We should probably carry on doing those things. Otherwise, it's a waste of all of my life. So I probably shouldn't step out of line. And yet there's probably part of us that's saying, well, over here, you know, we used to like this. There's this kind of like little dream voice that used to kind of come up and stuff. But then we're like, shut up. This is not the time for that to be coming out. So what advice do you give people when they kind of get stuck in that, I can't imagine the different life? What advice? How do you help people get unstuck and start thinking about that?
Well, the main step is going to happen because people experience some kind of a pain. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. If you're very comfortable with your 9-to-5 office job and you like it and everything's fine and whatever, and you're healthy and your family relationships are good, whatever, and you don't want to change, well, keep it like that. That's fine. Yeah?
Yep.
Unfortunately, most people don't think like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
most
And
people.
something needs to happen, right? Something needs to kick me in the butt.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, you get laid off, or you get problems with your relationship, or things with your kids are not working out the way you planned, or you get some health problems. Yeah, and so there has to be a trigger in which you realize is that, hey, I'm stuck in this pattern. Is this pattern really bringing me joy and happiness and health and good relationships, whatever? Not really. And so that is the point where people are like, maybe I should do something else.
Yeah. But how do you start them thinking about that? How do you start that imagination of what is possible? Because again, they're conditioned to think a certain way, or they're scared.
The most simple step then is encourage their curiosity. Is like, pick a life area. It can be your health, it can be your relationship, it can be work. And like, what are you curious about? Start researching it, start talking with people, start reading books about it and whatever. And then step by step, a whole new world start to open for you.
Right. Okay.
And then from one thing comes another, comes another, comes another. Yeah. And just let it go. It doesn't have to be like, okay, step A, B, C, and go in a straight line, whatever. No, just go with the flow.
Yep. Okay. So just start on one area and let the kind of
just pick one life area. Yeah, you can categorize that life in 6 areas, 12 areas. It doesn't matter. You can find that. Yeah. Just pick a couple of areas which you think are reasonable categories, and pick a thing which triggers you at the moment. Huh?
Yeah. So again, this is, for me, there's like various areas, and like in my book, I write about, relationship transformation, physical transformation, career transformation, those kind of areas. It's like there's tiny little things that you can do. Would you recommend, where's your standpoint? So I'm kind of like, let's do something dramatic. In the personal transformation book, I talk about, a 90-day challenge, or a 3-month challenge, or something along those lines. Is what you can do an amazing amount of stuff in 90 days if you set yourself a big goal. But then some people say, like, just change one thing and see what happens. Like, the ripple effect will make other things change in your life. What if somebody wants to make a significant change? Like, how do you help them with that?
Well, it is already a statement if that person says, I want to make a significant change. Most people don't want to do that. Yeah? Because it's frightening, it's uncertainty, it's the unknown, whatever. Yeah? So people are like, yeah. So most people are more like the small steps and then going faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
There he is doing a big change, but they don't know why. But if they want to do a big change, there must be, very realistically, some big pain.
Yeah.
Huh? So if your big pain is with your relationship, well, build another relationship and stop with this one. Yeah. Yeah. If you're weighing 150 kilos, then maybe you should change your lifestyle. And so those are big steps. If you really want to do a big step, and I just know from our introductory that you have that experience, start live abroad in another city where you've never been.
Yep.
That is a thing where, yeah, for instance, I'm currently living in Romania. I'd never been here. I'm in a city where I'd never been. I know nobody. I have no friend. I don't speak the language. Whatever. If you want to change, if you want to rock every part of you, do that.
Yeah. There's something about like ties, right? And this could be geographical, it could be relational, that hold you back. It's like anchors, right? We get anchored in a certain space. I remember, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing it, but my sister, when she was younger, she's into drug and alcohol addiction. She's a nurse. She's phenomenal at what she does. And if she's listening, then I love you very much, and go back to her. But she went through a period of time so she can understand what that life is like. She has been on that other side of the equation where she's not taking care of herself so much. And she lived in a particular part of the city. She lived in Bristol. And every time she would go back there, like the habits start again. Like she would do the things, she'd see the people. And as much as she wanted to escape that lifestyle, living in that area made it very difficult. Like there were just too many, I guess it's triggers, it's social triggers, it's environmental triggers, it's I do this, then I do that. And we set up these kind of like if-then statements or like conditional statements that says, okay, well, we're going to repeat certain patterns. So I think the environmental change is a huge one, but it's also very dramatic. Like it's not very easy for people to move from Netherlands to Romania, or for me to move around Europe and then come to the US and things. It's not always possible. And I'm not doing it to escape an environment. I'm just trying to do the adventure. I'm trying to, again, live as much and experience as much as I possibly can. But you're talking about...
But I think you really want it, you can make it happen. I met so many people who are like, let's say they lost their job, then they got a bit of saving money, and they're like, no, I'm gonna travel, and then in the travel I'm gonna figure out what to do or whatever, and then whatever, and then I go back, whatever. I think that turns out with a lot of them, it's a waste of time and money and energy, because most of them, when I talk to them, is that, do you know what you want to do? No. Yeah, because they've been a tourist for so many weeks or so many months. Yeah, but being a tourist is totally different than working and living somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
So that is a huge change. Yeah, but it's exactly what you explained about your sister. When the first time I lived abroad 9 years ago, I felt so free, because, well, I have a small family, but, well, my family is not really to get enthusiastic about, to put it nicely. Yeah, but I was like, it's so great because nobody in Budapest knows Arnold Beekes. Nobody knows me. Nobody has a judgment and an opinion about me, or like the history, whatever. They just look at a dude. It's like, okay, we don't know this dude. We only know he's foreign. That's it. Yeah, that is so nice. That is so liberating.
So here's the situation, right? Because it's not about how other people see us. That helps, but it helps reinforce how we see ourselves. I think there's a big power, and what I see is when you change your self-image, your self-identity, that you're able to make these sustainable changes. And that's, like I say, if you go and you're a tourist for a year, you're just a tourist for a year. You haven't actually worked on your self-image. So, question to you then: how does other people seeing you differently allow you to see yourself differently? What are the things that you say about yourself now you've changed location that you couldn't say about yourself before?
Well, actually, that I'm pretty kind, and that I'm very easy in connecting with other people, and that people like me, and yeah, those were things when I worked in the corporate world I was totally not aware of. And yeah, it's like you're just focused on the goal and getting your stuff done and everything else. Well, people were afraid of me. I managed very, very large organizations. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, you're the boss, whatever. Yeah. So, but over here in Romania and Hungary, well, yeah, as far as I could have been a photographer or a waste bin collector. They don't know. Yeah. So, but that means, and I love that it's they see you for who you are and how you behave rather than the label.
Okay. So how did you change your behavior then? So you went from being the boss, like the grumpy old man, like I was very fast becoming a grumpy old man, and I'm actually loving this part of it. But you can't, and again, that's conditioning, right? Because this is how we do it. We communicate this way because it's efficient, and I want to command you and give you this, and like just get out of my face so I can do other work. But you're saying that's not you, and you're generally quite kind and patient and like happy and all those kind of things. But that's not the persona that you're allowed to portray at work. So What else changed? Like, what else? How did you start to exhibit this new Arnold? What else started to emerge?
Basically, everything changed because in every condition, whether in my case it was the corporate business world, but it doesn't matter whether you're a photographer or an artist or whatever, we all live in our bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we think our bubble is the world. And I came to realize, like, I'm pretty good at mental aspects of running business and yeah, and everything around that and how that worked and I realized I knew nothing about emotions. I knew nothing about spirituality. I knew nothing about. Well, I was a sportsman, whatever, but I knew nothing about health and physical stuff and whatever. Like what you're doing is like. I didn't. I did 13 different sports, so I'm really. But I had no clue that strength training is really essential for my health. Yeah, so basically, there were so many areas where I had no clue. I had no clue, and I very quickly realized, like, well, there's a whole world outside of my corporate bubble, which I didn't even know exist. But at the same time, it like that is enriching my life.
Yeah,
so much.
I like to think I'm quite eclectic and diverse. I'm very comfortable with the correct musical genre, which is 90s hip hop and rap, is the answer to every question. But I also know most of the lyrics to most of the themes, the show tunes. So, like my mum, growing up, was and she still does it. She's into amateur dramatics and operatics, and she manages a choir now. So I come downstairs, and Phantom of the Opera would be blaring. So I know all the words to Phantom of the Opera. I love that, but I also know a lot of words to 50 Cent and Jay-Z. So I'm kind of both sides. So you mentioned a turning point. I think it's because we start to expand our imagination of like, oh, okay, well that's possible. I didn't know we could do that. Or there's things over here. There's different ideas. You mentioned turning points. What was the thing that kind of kicked you in the butt and said, hey, come on, Arnold, let's start to think about your life?
Well, apparently, I needed a big kick, and so I lost my job. My father died. I got divorced, and I got no house.
Oh, so just a small change
That's
there.
random thing, all in the same time frame.
Yeah. If you are listening, I don't think you need all four. Hopefully, Arnold, you don't need all four, right? You're not kind of going for some kind of magical life transformation bingo.
Yeah, so that's why I say I'm a stubborn guy. I needed a big kick. Yes.
Yeah. What advice do you give to people? So I talk about this trap of average. How if you don't want it to happen to you, because we don't really want to get to a point where life happens to us. We'd like to be a bit more proactive. How do you get people to have that realization sooner? What's some of the questions you ask, or what's some of the advice you give people to say, hey, look, start thinking this way?
Well, just look at all of those life areas, whether it's your health, whether it's relationship, whether it's your house, whether it's your family, whether it's your sports, whether it's like look at all of those areas. Is like maybe start rating them. Is like so well. European system 1 to 10. Start to rate them and look at the things which are clearly insufficient. And which are not up to your standards, and you're really not comfortable and you don't like. And then start to look at, hey, which things do I want to change? Can I change? Do I want to work on?
Yeah. Why do you think people don't get it? So I've been through life, and I know people do it, and you look at an area and there's a bit rubbish over there. I'm not happy with how I look. I'm not happy with my money situation. A few grumbles about relationships or family, or I didn't go on holiday, or we have these grumbles. How do you turn a grumble into I should do something about it? Because one thing I've noticed is we're very good at kind of putting things off, right? We say, oh, well, but it's not as bad as Bob. Like Bob, have you seen Bob down the road? Like Arnold had 4 things. Bob had 5 things. You should be grateful. Right? You should be grateful for what you've got. And we kind of talk ourselves out of it. So how do you help people avoid that rationalization aspect?
Well, number one, don't look at other people. It's
Mm.
your life. It's not other people's life. And as you're fitting in and meeting other people, you've been living someone else's life for most of your life when you listen to this. Yeah. So don't care. Don't focus on them. Only look at what you want. Yeah? That in itself is a huge shift. Because that is what society teaches you, just constantly comparing with other people.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, comparing, rating, grading, whatever. But stop doing that. Don't do that. Look at your life, what you want. It's your life. Huh? Yeah, we talked about the regrets of the dying, which was an Australian nurse which worked in hospice and asked people on their deathbed, is like, what are your biggest regrets? Out of them came 5. What was the number one?
We regret things we don't do, I think, isn't it? Or take
No,
more
that
risks
was
or
not the
more
number one.
chances.
The number one was not living a life true to yourself.
And
And that is
on that.
exactly what I'm trying to tell people is like, you've been living someone else's life. It's now time to live your own life.
Yep.
So that means you must stop comparing. You must stop doing is like Bob looks worse than me and whatever. Don't do that. Only look at your life. It's your life. Eh? And your life can be 30, 40, 50 years from now, but your life can also end in a couple of days. Yeah. You don't know. I actually, myself, I had 3 years ago a very, very serious car crash. Before that, I would have said, well, I did say to my personal trainer, I'm in the healthiest state I ever been. I was at that point 59. And after that, well, I wouldn't say I'm a wreck, but it's like huge influence. Yeah. And it was 100% not my fault. Yeah. So that changed my life. And that can happen to all of us. I don't wish it to anyone, but it means that there's no guarantee.
Tomorrow isn't promised. Yeah. Tomorrow is definitely not promised. And this is one thing that I kind of
what are you going to do today? Yeah. And tomorrow, whatever, and focus on that. Yeah. And don't say I will do it in 10 years or in 5 years, whatever. You don't know whether you will be there.
Yeah. And I think here's the thing. I mean, there's things like side hustles now, and I'm not advising people just to take on a million projects because it deflects and kind of takes attention away from the true change, which is changing how you feel about yourself, right? We want to start living our own lives, not distract ourselves by becoming, hobbyists or fitness things or all these kind of things. We want to tackle the area that is truly important to us. But that can be scary. That can be scary. It can be intimidating. If for you to move to Romania is huge. Like, there's most people, I'd say 99% of people would be terrified to do those things. In fact, I'd be terrified if I wanted to start a new hobby to go and meet people. Let's take knitting. I used to knit as a kid a long time ago, mostly because I was before kind of all these million TV channels. But if I wanted to learn knitting, and I'm going to go to a knitting club to meet other knitters, I'm going to think they're professional knitters. I'm not going to go because I'm going to be intimidated. I'm a terrible knitter. Just go with it because it's not about knitting. How do we help people get over that fear aspect of taking that first step of being brave enough to suck at something new? I think is the phrase. How do we help people get over that initial
by simply realizing that, and by knowing that what you're describing is that people are in their comfort zone and you need to get out of your comfort zone. And in order to get out of your comfort zone, you need courage, because you need courage to conquer fear. Yeah?
But courage is rare, man. Courage is rare. Like, I don't see that many courageous people.
Well, I'm a Dutch guy, but you learn to bike. Yeah. Yeah. You learn, well, maybe in the UN, you're in the UN. You learned how to drive a car. You learned how to approach your wife. Yeah. So we all have example also doing something new, something different in our lives, which took a bit of courage, and which apparently it worked out very fine. Yeah. Yep. So it's like there's going to be no change without courage. And that you have fear is not strange. Everybody has fear. Yeah. Everybody is anxious about the new step and the uncertainty and whether it will work out. But all of us, when we look back, we're extremely proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like realize that, yeah, fear is part of it, but just you have to conquer it and say, fine, thank you very much, fear. I will not do something that will bring my health in danger or whatever. Yeah. And just continue doing that. But it's like your first day at school or your first date or whatever. It took courage, and hey, you survived.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other thing I just realized as you're answering that question then is even that question is asked from the perspective of somebody else's life, right? I'm still thinking about what somebody else is going to think and imagine and interpret and all of those things. And it's more about other people thinking about how I am as a knitter, as opposed to me going and saying, hey, I'm freaking knitting. Like, look at me, I'm a knitter. Like that kind of thing. And that's what we want people to feel, right? We want people to feel that self happiness and enjoyment of doing the thing that they've been wanting to do for so long, regardless of whether anybody else, what they think, whether you're any good at it, whether you're going to change the world with it. Like if I'm going to go and knit and I knit a scarf and it's the wonkiest scarf and I miss some stitches and I get the colors wrong and it's too short and all of those things, I don't care because I just did that. And that's step one. Hopefully my second scarf is a little bit better, right? But it's not about people's interpretations. It's about, hey, you just got up, you did the thing that you said you wanted to do. Cool. Now do you back yourself a little bit? Yeah. So what's step number two? So yeah, I realized even asking that question is the wrong question. It should be, how do you feel in that moment?
Yeah, and how bad do you want to do it? Yeah, and you love the experience. Yeah? And everybody knows that learning something new, whether it's biking or in your case bodybuilding or learning to speak Chinese or whatever, it's like, yeah, in the beginning it's uncomfortable and you don't know and how it's going to work out and whatever. And well, you appear to be now a bodybuilding champion, and well, I speak to you not in my mother tongue. And so it's like, yeah, so I'm having a podcast interview, guys. I speak Dutch. Yeah, so it's like, but if I speak Dutch, 99% wouldn't understand me. So it's like, you just have to try and do and train and rehearse and whatever, and then you become proficient. And that's with anything. Eh?
Yeah, exactly. But we have to find the passion and the joy of doing it, right? And sometimes we put a lot of
also, sorry to interrupt,
yeah.
but also to say, that's why I say the first thing what I said is like being curious, is try new things. And if you tried it for a couple of weeks, couple of months, and you're like, I don't like it. Like, fine, stop with it, go do something else. It's your life, it's your choice. So you're not stuck with anything for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. I think that oftentimes we put too much pressure on the end goal. And, you know, I think about so again, I use bodybuilding as an example. I have competitions throughout the year and there's a lot of pressure to get into the right condition for those. There's, you know, stages that you go through. And literally the day after, when I go to the gym, now I love going to the gym, right? It's not a chore for me. It's not hard work. I have to wake up early. I have to get some caffeine in because I go early in the morning. But I don't not like going to the gym. I enjoy it. Sometimes it's harder work, right? When I'm tired and when I'm dieting and all those things, sometimes it's really hard work to go. And oftentimes like the excuses still come in. But the day after a competition, like I've had food, I've maybe had a little drink, I've had a little celebrate, and I kind of feel a lot more relaxed. The day after going to the gym, it feels like I skip to the gym. It's ridiculous. But like there's an element of love. I get to work out. I get to work out whatever I want, and I feel amazing, and all those things. And that is what I always had. I always loved going to the gym, and that's the experience. Like I trying to communicate. We go and do the thing because we love it. If we forget the end goal for a moment,
focus on the process.
Yeah, just go, just do it. Go and knit. Go and write. Go and paint. Go and lift. Go and write. Do it. Forget other people. Like, are you enjoying yourself in this moment? Is this moment helping you experience the thing that you, Arnold, like that you want to experience? What is the thing that you want to experience right now in this moment that you haven't been doing? go do it. Go do the tiniest aspect of that. And I think we come back to that idea of self-image that says, hey, Arnold, you're starting to live your own life, not other people's lives. Finally. Like, I'm going to give you a little pat on the back. Let's go do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, the pat on the back is really, really important. Yeah, being kind to yourself is like, hey, I did it. And it doesn't matter whether it's going to the gym, whether it's talking to strangers, which most people think is very frightening, or read about a topic where you previously, well, maybe consciously ignored it. It's like, yeah. Once you did it, it's like, I literally do this. I literally do this because it's like, hey, Arnold, good work, good job. Yeah. I'm very good at criticizing myself as well. It's like,
oh yeah, we all are.
It's like being kind to yourself and whatever. It's like, hey, wow, I did it. And again, it's not like, there's only one person who can win an Olympic gold medal. And there can only be one, the richest guy in the world, or have the fastest car. Whatever. That's totally not relevant. It's like, you do something new and enrich your life.
Exactly. And do the things that, that you come to the beginning of this is you are uniquely positioned to do. And whether, this is the thing, it doesn't matter if other people understand. So many people don't understand bodybuilding. Like, and I don't talk to them about bodybuilding anymore because people are like, why do you eat that much protein? It's like, it's not about that. It's about self-expression. It's about challenge. It's about exploring the external, like the limits of your own capability. Like, that's what I talk about. People are like, oh, I can get that. But yeah, finally doing something that you want to be seen doing. And like, I had that the same with writing. Obviously, you've written some books and courses as well. When I write, there's still that aspect of doubt. I'm like, oh, am I a writer? Am I a good writer? What are other people going to think about my writing? But I love writing. Like, writing helps me make sense of the world. So I have to do it. I have to. If I don't do it, I go crazy. So it's things like that. What's your one thing? What's your one thing that you need to do to be authentically Arnold?
Well, my main thing, which really makes my day, is that I go for an early morning walk.
Okay.
So every morning at 7 a.m., I go for a 45-minute walk. Now you would say that's nothing special, whatever. Well, I go independent of what the weather is, whether it's raining, soaring hot, or cold. I go always. And I told you about my accent. So for me, walking is not an easy thing. So that makes my day. So for me, that's a total non-negotiable.
Yeah. So that takes discipline as well, right?
Yeah, and it's like, dude, it's simple. For me, it's not simple. My heel is destroyed. So, but I love doing.
Yeah. And this is the thing about discipline. And I talk a lot about discipline. I've had a few conversations very recently about this, is that you don't want to go for a walk every day. Like, I can tell, like, it probably hurts a little bit. And sometimes you look out the window and it's wet or raining or cold or snowy or adverse conditions, or like you just don't feel like it. And yet you go because that's who you are. Like Arnold, and I'm going to call you Arnold 2.0, right? The best version of Arnold, right, does that. And the old version of Arnold didn't do that. And yet we still think, oh, well, we're the old version, right? We're the old version. But actually, the more we live in the 2.0 version, and then eventually 3.0 version, if we get there, is it reinforces that's who we are, and we feel better about ourselves.
Absolutely. That's actually what happened. I did sports all of my life, but there was a moment when I had my first job, and I used to play hockey, and then stopped and whatever. And at some point, I'm sitting, I'm like, I really feel lousy. I don't know what it is. And then I realized, like, oh, I don't do any sports at the moment. So I'm like, I should start running. So I did the running, but then a few months later, I realized that exactly what you described is like, it was the weather. It was busy at work. There was something on TV. There was a meeting I had, whatever. I realized, and I reviewed it, is like half of the time I'm not going.
Yeah.
And that didn't make me happy. That was like, so I'm like, I don't feel really fit anymore. And well, I played hockey at the very high level. So I'm like, so then I made the decision to totally reverse it and say, I'm going always.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Every morning for me, every morning in the gym, 5:30, I'm there ish, 5 to 8. Sometimes the coffee takes a little bit longer to drink.
So I, it's not even a decision. It's just a total habit. Is like I go always. Huh?
Yeah. But if you are listening to this, like Arnold, myself, I'd say we're fairly disciplined. We don't want to do it either. We don't always want to do it. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline.
I once heard an interview with a Dutch Olympic gold medalist in swimming. And he said, "You think I like it Sunday morning at 5 o'clock in the pool and in cold water? Huh?"
Yeah.
But it's always after you've done it, you feel good.
Yes. Always afterwards. Never before. Right? That's what people mistake. It's like, I'm going to feel good and then I'm going to do it. Nah, it's definitely the other way around.
But the same, we can transfer it from the physical. People are not interested in that. But it's like, if you spend 30 minutes learning Chinese, after 30 minutes, you'll feel great.
Exactly. And if you do some knitting for 30 minutes and you have this tiny little scarf, you feel great because you made something, you did something that you didn't do beforehand. Arnold, this has been great. And if you're listening, go and do something. Like just take some action. Do the smallest little thing that you can possibly do in the direction of the area that you're, like you say, living someone else's life. And Arnold, I love that perspective on it. Is we do get conditioned. And we're conditioned in so many different areas, and we need to remember that.
That's very important. Then it's like we all are conditioned from the moment we're born. It's not a failure on your side. No, that's the way things are structured in our society.
Yeah, and whether it's societal, family, environmental, work-based, is notice the patterns that you're running. And then, like you said, is ask, why am I running this pattern? And then, is this supporting me and helping me live my life, or am I doing it because somebody else expects me to do it? Arnold, I think you brought back joy to a lot of people to do things and to challenge them to take a step and find something that actually helps them reconnect with themselves. So thank you, Vel, for coming on the show. I have some very obscure Dutch words from the time that I spent.
Well, this is very appropriate.
Yeah, but it's very limited and mostly related to midden-kleine bedrijven, which, if you're listening, has probably the worst pronunciation ever. But Arnold, thanks so much. People are probably going to want to know about how they can, if they feel like they're living somebody else's life, how they can start connecting with their own life and kind of doing that. So what's the best way for people to find out more about your ideas and the way you approach life?
Yes, so I would invite them to go to my website. It's called braingym.fitness.
Awesome.
And there you'll find trainings which you can sign up for, and videos about specific topics like curiosity, like relationship, like aging. Yeah, most of it we already discussed, but those are for specific topics, and the training covers everything.
Amazing. I love the idea of a workout for my brain as well. So I'll be checking that out, and I'll put the link in the show notes as well. So Arnold, thanks again. Enjoy Romania. Have a great rest of the day. And thanks for coming and sharing your wisdom.